Samuel and Joni, welcome to New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you so much for having us.
Joni, start us off and just tell us, what was your reaction when you heard that Pope Francis had apologized to Canada's Indigenous people for the Catholic Church's role in the Indian residential schools?
Thank you for your question, Antonia. You know, for me personally, it brought up a lot of unresolved trauma, thinking about all of the research that I've conducted as a student currently at the University of Washington, Tacoma, pursuing a doctorate in educational leadership, and also my work for the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition based out of Minnesota, and also in deep reflection of my Pueblo Irish roots here in New Mexico and understanding the deeply entwined and very nuanced ways in which Catholicism has woven itself into our Pueblo culture. I also reflected on the ways in which our survivors and their families, as well as those who did not return home, may have had mixed feelings on the apology, whether it was accepted wholeheartedly or that it's a good start. But personally, I feel that going back to my own Pueblo and core values, forgiveness is one of the important pieces that we practice on a daily basis. And for me, I feel like it's a really good opportunity to begin having these conversations.
And Samuel, your thoughts. What did you think when you heard Pope Francis apologize to Canada's Indigenous people?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having our voice on this segment right now, and I really appreciate the words shared by Joni. It's a complicated and nuanced setting, of course, as Joni mentions, very much looking at it as an important dialogue starter. And I think number one, most importantly, the recognition of the harms done, I think is always a good place to start. But as we know and what we have seen with apologies and land acknowledgements made in the past, we must know that actions and an intention to address the social conditions that could create a systemic environment of oppression, such as the federal Indian boarding school policies of the United States, of Canada. And on behalf of the Catholic Church, issuing an apology, of course, I think is important, and it can't be understated that for many survivors, descendants, families, relatives that have been deeply impacted by this, I know that there are a lot of folks that have been waiting a long time to hear words such as these, and so there is some healing power in that, the ability to transform those deep wounds into a place of hope, of growth, of healing. That said, we know that there's also a lot that the Catholic Church and other Christian denominations and settler nation governments can do to be able to back up those words of apology. And the work of the Healing Coalition has for years been very adamant about these Christian denominations, as well as the federal government, to increase the access of boarding school records and documents. Those documents that have been shown to generate such healing power for relatives that are looking to find out more about their ancestors, their relatives that in some cases are still living. Those documents often are so powerful for families, for nations to be able to more deeply understand the scope of damage, the scope of the impacts, which are still ongoing.
And Joni, the apology from Pope Francis was to Indigenous people in Canada. What do you think people here in the United States, when it comes to Native Americans, Alaska Natives, who went through boarding school systems here, which a lot of our stories mirror what was going on in Canada. What do you think that Native people here want to see from the Catholic Church?
Thank you. I can agree more with my brother Sam, and I definitely feel that this is a great step. There's so much momentum happening right now, and much like our Métis, our Inuit, and First Nations relatives in Canada, we want an acknowledgement as well here in the United States, and it's important to also understand that each community and their respective experiences are going to be very different in terms of what they define as reparations, what that could look like. But in terms of a call to action for right now and taking those measurable steps, I think that the next opportunity would be for the Pope to come to the United States as well, to step foot on our soil here on Turtle Island, and to begin having those conversations with our communities.
And anything to add to that, Samuel, about not only just here, the lower 48 tribes, but also people in Alaska as well that you work with have some similar boarding school stories?
It is an inescapable entanglement that is clearly there, and one of the things that I think is really helpful to try to understand where and how this apology has come to be. It didn't come out of nowhere, and we understand that with the findings of First Nations peoples, with the ground penetrating radar and magnetometry cemetery survey results of the past year, they have not been had under just in a vacuum. They have not emerged as a random set of occurrences, and folks that are not as aware of this ongoing work that has been happening on Turtle Island for many decades, many generations of truth seeking, of truth telling, had a very consequential moment with the Canadian Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the early 2000s, and so Canada is in some ways, shape, or form a bit further ahead than the United States as it relates to the work in the coalition. We helped to write both H.R. 5444 and Senate Bill 2907, the Truth and Healing Commission Bill on Indian Boarding Schools Policy Act. And we are generating a lot of interest, doing a lot of education work and advocacy around the bill. But this is work that needs to be codified into law and needs to be included within the political discourse of the United States.
There is a national investigation here in the United States led by Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland, and the coalition is taking part in that. Why is it important to uncover these documents, to have people share their stories? And it is traumatizing. Every single person in Indian country has been impacted generations by Indian boarding schools. So we're not talking about a history that's a long time ago. It's still impacting our tribal communities, and it's hard to talk about. So Joni, why is it so important for this investigation to uncover documents, but also just share with the public?
It's so important and critical right now because we don't know, as of today still, how many children went missing while at federal Indian-run boarding schools. And I think that there's so much momentum happening right now with our Pueblo sister, Secretary Haaland, to be able to make some really great strides in this area and to call to action the opportunity to have access to these records, to church records, to records at the National Archive and other locations, and also to really understand the intergenerational impacts of trauma that it's had on communities. And we've seen these ripple effects carried out through the timeline of federal Indian law and policy, and looking at education being one of those long-standing pieces in which children and families and the push for English-only literacy, the push for the Catholic denomination within communities here in New Mexico to be the way forward. And now we're in a race with time to save our cultures and languages, to heal our trauma, to raise our families, And, I feel that this is also generational work. It's the prayers of our ancestors who are not very far removed, 6 or 7 generations back, who attended places like Carlisle Indian Industrial School and who did not make it home. And those who experienced trauma while at school and or the loss of their peers and then returning to their communities and trying to reintegrate themselves into Pueblo culture or indigenous culture in general, we see those effects today in particularly families and at the communal level when we think about nation building, when we think about the opportunities that we have to continue the conversation around how we reclaim our children through education and language.
Well, thank you for that, Samuel and Joni. Thank you both for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your thoughts on the Pope's apology and the work of the coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Netra.
Yes, thank you for having us on the show.